Hello, everybody. My name is Diana, and this is my open webinar about how to make your website more accessible and user-friendly. And I will just present a little bit myself, why I'm providing such webinars. So I'm an engineer with a master's degree from École Polytechnique. I studied in France, and then during last 6 years, I work as front-end web developer. And during last 2 years, I put all my efforts into studying and working on web accessibility. So today it's a very practical event, and if you have some links, you can send me during the webinar. Some send it before the webinar, the links to the sites, and all together with the people who send me the links, we decided to choose one site based on which, for the beginning, I will present what it is to have accessible site, what is important, and how to make it user-friendly, what it means. So now I will open the site Doctolib, the site that everybody used at least once in a life to find a good medical specialist. And we will see whether the main page of the site is accessible. So I will share with you now my no, it's not this. Um, I hope it will open. Uh, yes. So I hope that you can see it. So this is the main site, main page of the site, Doctolib. And that's how it looked like. So to understand whether the site is accessible and user-friendly, the first thing that we need to do, we need to go from the beginning to the end of the site, from the header, from the first elements, to just scroll down and see if there are any questions that we have, something not understandable, something is too fast at moving, some elements or flashing, maybe some information is not understandable, or maybe we just don't understand where we are, what this site means. These are important criteria. The first impression, how you see and feel this site, it's important. So I will just go from the top to the bottom. I will scroll and we will see. So I see like there is a name of this site, and I see the colors. It's usually the blue color associated with e-health and just health sites and companies. So it's about safety and the comfort and health. So the color is chosen well. Um, so here are some buttons. I can choose something. It's good that it doesn't change, it doesn't flash. So here it's very good contrast. I can read, it's not too small. Um, Doctolib in numbers, we can see how many people use it. This is good information so that this provides more comfort and more reliance on the services of this site. Here are also other parts. So for now, everything is fine and understandable. I like that the parts, they're very much differentiated with different color. It's not just with the heading, it's also about different colors that change. So we see clearly the different sections of the site. Yes, and we can see that we can apply straight on the main questions. And for the questions, so it's quite small. I like that it's not big. I would say everything for now is understandable at the bottom. So the footer, the bottom part, we see a lot of sections where we can go according to the type of the specialist that we are searching. So I didn't find any problem from the first impression. It's short. It's also good that it's not long. Like for example, I was making the analysis of the site Le Monde, and it's very, very long. But of course, it's two different types of site. Like this one provides services. It's about medicine. Another one, it's about news. So there is much more information that should be somehow be all on the site. So now we will try to analyze the site. and I will do it with you. First, we will check the landmarks. So what the sites consist of. Usually we have navigation, the header, main page, main section of the page, and the footer. There also can be some sections aside or some subsections in the main area. But what is really important is that we have just one main section, and the headers, they can be some headers, they can be just one, they can be several. Actually, it's good when the header is connected to the name of different sections, so there are at least several. And navigation should be clear. We should be able to find things that we're searching on the site, and there should be at least two ways to find information. So here I will just move a little bit so that I search. Okay, so we have the navigation. There is the menu, and the main start just below with the banner, and it goes so all this, it's main section. And now we can see that it's content info, so the bottom is the footer. So here everything is fine. There's just one. There is no interruption of the main section. I see that just I don't understand where the section about questions and the logotype with Doctolib, why it's above. It's just a little bit strange because there is like section that doesn't belong to any part of the site, of the page. So there is a question about this, but we will see it later what it belonged to. Now I will check the headings of the sites. So first I will just finish with the landmarks, and we will see. I hope that you see with my extension headings map what the site consists of. So we need to have just one H1 level heading on the site, and that's the heading that the automatic robots of searching engines, they are recognizing your site with. So if you have, for example, no H1, so they don't know exactly what your web page is about. They don't know where to put it, and where to place your site, in which criteria, in which category. Here I see that H1, well, I will show you probably here more visually accessed. So here you can see that H1, it's for this phrase, vivre en meilleure santé. So what it means, live in better health. That's what they chose as H1 of this page. And I have a small problem because it's a very general phrase, because H1, it's what this web page is about, the main title. Like, for example, eShop, or the main page, or the name, the resources or materials, something that clearly says that's what it's about. Here it's a little bit general, so I would prefer, for example, if it would be like find the best medical specialist. This would provide precisely the purpose of the service. It's a main page, so it's about what they do in general and which information you give on this page. Here it's a little bit general, but they have just one H1, have a heading level, which is good. So now we are going next. This is H2 level, so this is good. Just like in the book, first we see the cover of the book, and it's the biggest title. Then we open the book and we see the name of the section, then the subsection, and they all should go from the biggest size, biggest, like the most recognizable, with the strong style, and with the biggest font, and then it should go smaller and smaller. And that's the same. So for people who cannot see the site, for example, for people who use screen reader, which can be blind people, or even for people who can see, but they cannot understand information visually. This also exists. It's important that the site is coded in the right way, in accessible way. And here we see that H2, so the first main section, is coded correctly. Here, what I don't like is that H3 level. It's right that subsections, they are coded in the same way, but the important way, the important thing to remember about is that the same headings of the same level should be coded in the same way. So all H3 headings should be coded with the same font, the same size, the same style, and the same color, preferably. With the color, I understand that this is the hardest point because you can have, just like what we'll see later, the background can be different. So you cannot have the same, for example, white text on the dark background, like for example, dark yellow background and dark blue background. It's going to be too different. You will not be able to read white text on the dark yellow background, and you have to change it for the darker. So here is a small problem, and it's very much connected to the design. But at least the headings, they're right. And here, so H2, but you can see that just above, when we see the numbers, they're bigger than H2 level. And this is the problem. It might be hard to understand, and it will affect user experience of the users using your site. Here, H2, which is great. H2, and as you can see, that's what I like. So yes, they changed the color in order to be accessible and to have good color contrast, but the size stayed the same. Let me just to check so that I think visually it looked quite the same, but I want to be sure. So we'll check this element, this code. Okay, so here it's 24 pixel Montserrat. This is the font, and if I go down, it's the same 24 Montserrat. This is great. And here as well. Yes, this is really good. And you can see that the general font for the text, it's 14 pixel, which is great. 14 is the minimum size for accessibility so that people can read it properly on the site. Smaller, it's going to be harder for people to focus and to read the text. Okay, so here it's H2, and yeah, and in the footer it just they also have H2 but much smaller. So this is this is an error. This will affect accessibility of the site. Okay, so now we took a look at the headings. Just the last thing that I would like to mention is that here we see recherche section, which is absolutely the same font as H2, but the levels, the heading levels, they are so different. There's H2 level and H4. This is a big mistake. It cannot be, it look completely the same, and it's just the same subsection, but they are coded differently. So it will be sad for people who don't see the site, but they listen through a screen reader. They will think that it's subsection of this section, which is not, and that's what we see. So this was the headings section, and now we will see the colors. So what is important is that there are no such instructions as, for example, press blue button, because some people, they might be colorblind and they will not see the button as the blue one. Now I will show you with the color how it's going on, but with another extension. So we will have interactive part right now to see the site with the eyes of people with different disabilities. And I hope that you will like it. You will understand better what it means not to use the color with instructions or some important part. So for example, with people with total color blindness, that's how the site will look like. So you can see that all the we see just black, white, and gray gradient, and that's how people will see the site if they have a problem with color blindness. If we have, for example, special um, another disability like yellow blue color blindness, so tritanopia, it's quite rare, but what it takes away these colors, yellow and blue color, from the way how we see the things, the sites, everything online, and not just online. But that's how it affects. So instead, when you click the blue button, it will not be really blue for people with such disability. They will see more like red and green. These are the colors that they will see. And if we try to see how uh, people with protanopia, that's the disease, red-green color blindness. So how they see the side. So you see that everything becomes violet and yellow. Again, so that's how it affects people with this disability. So it's important not to use the color as the part of instruction or indication. Um, Now I will be back. This is the normal way. And farsightedness. So this is number one, the most common visual impairment. And we need to think about making all the elements as big as possible, the text, so that people with such disease, they can read and click on the elements. Sorry. So that's how it it affects people, and this is very common disease among old people. And I should remind that every fourth person right now in France, for example, is a person of 65-year-old and older. So we all will have some changes, some age effects on us, whether one way or another, visual or physical. Um, and we need to create online services and sites for us in the future. And for people right now, for every fourth one, who is your potential user. So now I will show tunnel vision. That's how it looks. And you might think like how we can create a site for people with such visual disability. Well, here, for example, they use the columns. It's important not to put the text um, just as wide as your screen is, but to use the columns, um, so that people with tunnel vision, they can read it. This will make it much easier for them. And the last thing that I will show about visual impairment is sunshine. So this, all of us, we can read, open the site. For example, of course, many phones, they have an option to change the brightness according to how it is the place where you are, like how much brightness will be optimal. So they calculate it, but with the computer it's different. And some people, like I, for example, prefer the minimal brightness, and for them it's not gonna change. So this might be a problem. You need to create a site, like for example here I can read recherche, but well, technically here it's quite possible to read, but if it would be different, if the color contrast would be small, then it would be hard to read the text under the sun outside. And this would affect the user experience with your site. Now I will show you how people with mobility disability will how it affects people with such disease, like for example, Parkinson disease. So what it means that the focus when you move the cursor, it will tremble, it will shake. So it's hard to put the focus on the specific element. What it means that we need to create, for better user experience, the buttons, the links, all interactive elements as big as possible so that it's easier to put the focus on it. Right now, like for example, for me, well, I think it's quite fine, the button, but it could be bigger. I know the sites where it's like twice bigger and it's easier to use it. So that's how it goes with the Parkinson disease. And now we'll show how people with dyslexia, they see the site. So you can see that all the words, all the sentences, headings, titles, it's all jumping. It's really hard to concentrate and read. So the information should be simple. It should be focused on the main idea. It shouldn't use too complicated words, too long. It should be easy to read and understandable. This will help. Okay, so now we'll show the last thing for people with ADHD and autism, how it changes the way they see the site. So we see that it's really hard to concentrate, everything is moving, and you're thinking about other things. This of course affects the way how they see the site. And the way you structurize the site, it affects them. So it can make it easier, or it can make it very hard to understand what is on the site and how to use it. So here we need as well to keep it simple, keep it short, with the main idea, with a lot of precision about what should be done, but not to use phrases too long. So this should help with user experience of people with ADHD. Okay, so now we saw how and why the color is important, the color contrast is important, and we will take a look at accessible names, what it means. This affects not just people who use a screen reader in order if they cannot see the site, but they're understanding the site through listening to the elements, but also for example, any of us had a situation when the internet is too slow. And when the internet is slow, it means that some images or some elements, they might not really download. And instead, if you don't have accessible name, like alternative text for the images, then they will not see anything. So they will not see this information. And if you have a lot of interactive elements, so a big part of information of your site will be lost. So it's not important for not just for people with disabilities, but also for all the users. And that's what we can check, whether there are accessible names. And I can see that, yeah, they have it for every element, which is great. Well, I a little bit, for example, here, I don't understand. They have 90 millions, but they don't really write 90 millions of what. So the text is not really, I would put just in case more indication what is about, but still we have, and for all the buttons, we have accessible name. So this is great. And it's important that every element, every link, every button, they have accessible names and the images. Yeah, it's really interesting. What is important is that you can see that there are already a lot of information with accessible names. And it should be like this, but not too much. Because just imagine that you don't see the site, just close for a second your eyes, and just pretend that all that elements, all these violent elements, sorry, that they are all red And instead, you need to listen to go to the bottom of the site. You need to listen through all of them. So it added much more information and much more time spent on the page in order to get to the place where you want to be. And what is important here, for example, you can see that this is an image, but it doesn't have accessible name. Is it a mistake? No, because we need to put accessible name just for important, for the meaningful images. If it's just decorative, then we don't need to add accessible name or alternative text. Here we see a person sitting. If we don't have this image, if we just put it away, will it affect the site? If it affects the site, then it's a meaningful image and we need to have accessible name for it. But if we take away the image and it doesn't affect the understanding of the site, then it's decorative image and we don't need to put alternative text or accessible name of this element. So here I understand and I agree that there is no alternative text. At the bottom as well, there's just a hand with the phone with the logo. If we don't have this image, it's not gonna affect the main page. But here I don't understand. There is a medicine which is with the patient. I mean, this is decorative image, I would say, but it's coded as meaningful one. Here as well, at the bottom, we see just one person smiling with the computer, another one just smiling looking at us. And they say that it's colleague, which is just friendly and smiling. But I wouldn't say that this is important image, meaningful one that affects the understanding of the page. So there are some questions that I would think about and I would make it better. But overall, it has accessible names and it's really important. This site is for patients. So well, and the doctors, of course, but mostly it's for patients who go there on the site every day and it should be accessible. So we took a look at the main aspects here and I will also take a look. I have an extension, Accessibility Insights for Web, that I use to check the most important parts. And I will take a look at the automatic mistakes. So it can detect not just the structure and what we should take a look at, but also about automatic mistakes that there might be that can affect user experience on your site. So here, like I can see that, for example, here it's about the color. We can see that the color contrast is small. It should be at least 7, the difference between the colors. And here it's much harder to read Géré than C'est connecté, which is above. White on the blue or light blue on the blue, it's a big difference. And this affects being on the side here as well. I guess it's about color contrast. But technically there are just several mistakes that I see, and there is a logo type. I will just check with the extension what exactly they mean, because without just seeing okay, so here okay, so it ensures that meta name viewport doesn't disable text scaling and zoom in. Okay, so this is the mistake, and we need to disable zoom in on mobile devices. It should stay small. That's what the automatic check tells us. But of course, we need to check what they want. Sometimes they say, for example, for the images that there's a problem when actually there's no problem. Like where decorative images, they shouldn't have alternative name. alternative text. And here, as I can see, I think it's yeah, it's about the color contrast between foreground and background, and it should meet the minimum contrast ratio. And here we can check. I will check with you what it means. So now we will go. I hope that you can see. I will just go to the side where we can check color contrast. And that's the first, this is the background color. And now we will check it with the foreground color, which is dark blue. Okay, so here we see that it's 4.84. This is the color contrast between these colors, and it's not accessible for AAA norm. Usually, like it's advancing, of course. There are VCAG guidelines, accessibility guidelines that should be met in order to be accessible. Previously, it was just A, uh, after that double A, and now it's AAA, and it's always advancing so that we have the criteria and rules to meet more and more people with disabilities so that it's accessible for everybody. And here, this color contrast is not accessible according to the latest norms. Okay, so yes, now I think that we took a look how to work with the sites and what are important criteria, what we should look at in order to understand whether it's accessible or whether your web users, they have good experience with your site. And I hope it will help you to understand in which direction to move, what are the important things to look at, and what actually things that you should let it go. Like, for example, about decorative images, you don't need to put alternative text for all of them. You just can leave them and to concentrate on the meaningful images. But it's important not to use the color for the instructions and things like that, what I just mentioned. And I hope you had a very good time experiencing how people with disability, they see your site according to their impairments. So this, I hope, will help you to understand why it's important and what is important to do on your site and how to construct it in accessible and user-friendly way. So I was helping you with this, and I hope you had a good time. My name is Diana, and you can write me if you have question about this webinar or about web accessibility, and I hope I will be able to help you. Thank you very much and have a good time.